If you're into online food trends, you've probably heard of birria, the Mexican stew with an origin story that involves conquistadors, an army of goats, and an active volcano. But if you're wondering what it really is about birria that's got the internet so hyped up, stick around, because today we're breaking down the Mexican beef broth that everyone's talking about. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History Food channel. After that, please leave a comment and let us know what other public health-related topics you'd like to hear about. Birria is a rich, flavorful Mexican meat stew that's both comforting and complex. Traditionally made with goat, it's now just as common to see versions made with lamb or beef. The meat is marinated in an adobo, a blend of vinegar, dried chilies, garlic, herbs, and spices, before being slow-cooked in a savory broth. And while the dish is packed with flavor, its history is just as spicy. Rewind to the 16th century, when Spanish conquistadors first arrived in Mexico, bringing along pestilence, death, and goats. But the settlers had no intention of eating those goats because they disliked goat meat for its strong smell and tough texture. Apparently, they weren't all that into settling when it came to food. But the land eventually became overrun with goats, and the conquistadors, menches that they were, didn't have a solution to the problem. The locals, however, stepped up and decided to get creative. They slow-cooked the meat with herbs, spices, and chilies, often in underground pits, to tenderize it and infuse it with flavor. Thus, out of necessity and ingenuity, birria was born. It's a good origin story, but it would probably be more exciting if it involved an exploding volcano. Luckily, there's another one. According to a different legend, birria was created when a shepherd abandoned his goats in a cave during a volcanic eruption, only to return and find the meat cooked perfectly. No one is sure which story is true, but certainly we can all agree both origins seem equally plausible. The name birria actually began as a Spanish slang term meaning worthless or rubbish, supposedly used by conquistadors to describe the goat dishes made by the locals. Leave it to early colonizers to invent a derisive nickname for a problem they created themselves. Still, the name stuck, and over time, it became something to take pride in. Today, birria is anything but worthless. It's a cultural icon, a culinary tradition, and, unless you're a goat, it's one of Mexico's most beloved exports. In fact, it's commonly affiliated with events that are the opposite of worthless: weddings, baptisms, quinceañeras, and even holidays like Christmas and Easter. Traditionally, birria is served as a stew, birria en caldo or birria en consomé, with tender chunks of meat swimming in a deep, reddish broth. It's usually paired with warm corn tortillas, diced onion, fresh cilantro, and a squeeze of lime. And when it's served as tacos, aka tacos de birria, you get that perfect setup: shredded meat wrapped in a crispy tortilla with a cup of that rich consommé on the side for dipping. But like many great dishes, birria has changed forms over time, especially after crossing the border. In Jalisco, the birthplace of birria, goat remains the star of the show. In the US, though, most people are eating birria de res, or beef birria, which traces back to Tijuana in the 1950s. A taco vendor named Don Guadalupe Zarate allegedly made the switch from goat to beef because it was cheaper, easier to source, made bigger portions, and didn't require the use of a volcano. That difference turned out to be a game changer. The richer, fattier beef gave birria a deeper, heartier flavor that quickly caught on with American palates. It also happened to look great in photos, which, spoiler alert, helped kick off a birria boom decades later. Birria's rise in the US came the same way it's cooked. No, not in lava, but it was slow, steady, and worth the wait. One of the earliest adopters was Birria Chalio, a family-run spot that opened in East LA in the 1970s, and is often credited as the birthplace of traditional birria in the US. The Luis family turned a backyard business into a brick-and-mortar restaurant, serving the same goat stew that once filled wedding tables back home. From there, the torch was passed to a new generation of entrepreneurs. The modern birria boom then began in a driveway in south-central Los Angeles. In 2013, cousins Ruben Ramirez and Oscar Gonzalez set up a stand to sell what Ramirez called Poblano Gold, Drawing on a family recipe, the cousins quickly gained a loyal following, winning over coworkers and customers from every background who'd never tasted anything like it. Southern California's Mexican food scene has always thrived on migration, remix, and reinvention, and birria was no exception. Soon, more mainstream food outlets started to pick up on it, like Guy Fieri, who ate some on an episode of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. What started as a local specialty found new life in LA's parking lots and food trucks, shaped by the city's endless cultural feedback loop with Mexico. From there, it headed east to New York, Chicago, and anywhere else a deep fryer and Instagram account could coexist. The real inflection point, however, came not from a celebrity chef, but from social media. Around 2018, feeds overflowed with videos of red-stained tacos dunked into consomme, the meat dripping like a slow-motion car commercial. TikTok turned the consomme dunk into a full-blown food trend, which is, of course, when major brands decided to cash in. Qdoba, for example, saw an opportunity to replace its unprofitable brisket with a faster, cheaper version that mimicked birria's smoky, spicy appeal. Other chains followed, eager to bottle that same slow-cooked mystique for the lunch rush. Meanwhile, independent spots kept pushing the boundaries. Birria grilled cheese, birria poutine, even birria pizza. Hey, it's a TikTok trend now. What did you expect? The point is, the secret was out. More and more people were realizing that birria was the GOAT. It was stupendous. Brilliant. Okay, that's all the birria puns we've got. Outside of its viral appeal, birria's versatility has made it a common experimental dish for chefs looking to get creative. Yes, you've got your basic birria street tacos, but if you've seen birria on social media, odds are you saw quesabirria, the cheesy, dripping, beef-loaded taco that looks like it was engineered for slow-motion videos. Born in Tijuana and perfected in LA, it's the kind of food that makes your arteries tense just from the thumbnail. Tortillas dipped in consomme, dripped on a griddle, and fused with melted Oaxaca cheese. After all, if it's gonna become popular in the US, it needs cheese. Lots and lots of cheese. From there, things start getting experimental. Birria found its way into ramen bowls, where noodles replaced tortillas, but the broth stayed bold and spicy. It jumped onto pizzas, stuffed itself into lasagna, and even rolled into egg rolls. You can get birria pho, birria ravioli, birria haggis. Okay, there's no birria haggis, but you know some chef is working on it as we speak. And Qdoba wasn't the only chain to ride the trend. Moe's, for example, stuffed it into a quesadilla and served it with chips. Even Taco Bell and El Pollo Loco flirted with birria for a limited run, because nothing says mainstream success like a beloved cultural touchstone served via drive-thru. Today, you'll find birria everywhere. To Tacombi's Chihuahua cheese-drenched tacos in New York, to Chevy's fresh Mex platters served with rice, beans, and a consomme on the side. Del Taco and On the Border have their own brisket-heavy spins, and Dos Caminos serves it with chile de árbol salsa and queso dip. It's the ultimate culinary glow-up, a dish that started underground, quite literally, is now sitting comfortably under heat lamps across America. Birria has gone corporate, but somehow it's never lost its soul. Birria has gone from regional Mexican specialty to a U.S. dining staple, and much of that is thanks to restaurants doing it well. Los Angeles remains the epicenter, with family-run trucks like Birria Gonzalez sticking to goat birria, while others, like Tacos y Birria La Única, specialize in crispy beef-based tacos. Chicago has its own cluster of highly regarded birrieras, including Birria Ocotlan and Birria Zaragoza, serving Jalisco-style stews and tacos. Even Minneapolis has made a name for itself with Las Cuatro Milpas, a spot known for its hearty tacos and quesadillas. Texas and Nevada also have notable hubs, with Fort Worth's Birria Chalio and Las Vegas's Birria Dimas drawing consistent crowds. At home, birria is surprisingly approachable, though it requires some patience. First, you have to hunt down a goat and dig a traditional pit. Just kidding. The process begins with marinating the meat, typically beef chuck, brisket, or traditional goat, in the aforementioned adobo. The meat soaks up the flavors for at least a couple of hours, ideally overnight, which is when it starts to develop that rich, layered taste. Slow cooking is non-negotiable. After marination, the meat is simmered in a Dutch oven, slow cooker, or pot with beef broth for 2 to 3 hours until it is tender enough to shred. The cooking liquid becomes the consomme, a vital component both for serving as a broth and for dipping tacos or quesadillas. Attention to the cut of meat and the slow cooking process is what separates a decent at-home birria from a forgettable one. Serving is straightforward but essential. Warm corn tortillas, fresh cilantro, and diced onions complete the dish. Shredded meat is returned to the consommé before plating or dipping, allowing the rich broth to flavor each bite. Simple, cheap, and approachable. It's the kind of project that rewards time investment without requiring exotic ingredients. For those who prefer a shortcut, store-bought versions are widely available. Trader Joe's, for example, sells frozen beef birria that can be heated in minutes, ready to be transformed into tacos, quesadillas, or even pizza with just a skillet and some cheese. Between frozen options, fast casual chains, and dedicated birrieras, the dish is no longer confined to southern Mexico or food trucks. It's accessible, reliable, and recognizable wherever you go, especially if you put it on Instagram. So, what do you think? And are you a fan of birria? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other videos from Weird History.